Hey, Ethan here, and in this episode we'll be looking at Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, primarily for the Xbox 360. It's one of the best games in the series, but it's now time for some brief development history.
Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 was developed by Infinity Ward and started development in 2008 and then was revealed in December of that year, but then re-revealed in February 2009. Infinity Ward took inspiration from real-world conflicts and events and was then released on November 10, 2009 for the Xbox 360, PlayStation 3, and PC, and Nintendo DS was the word mobilized and without the 2 in the name, and the Wii getting a port of the original Modern Warfare being the Reflex Edition developed by Treyarch.
With that out of the way, let's start the campaign.
Modern Warfare 2's campaign takes place 5 years after the original game's story in 2016. You play as Private James Ramirez of the Army Rangers, Gary Rhodes Sanderson, and the returning character Soap McTavish, now a captain and part of the newly formed Task Force 141, which is a combination of soldiers all throughout the world. It starts out with a globe cutscene showing us a recap of the events thus far. We are then transferred to the training and are introduced to Sergeant Foley, and is basically the same basic training from the original Modern Warfare. We are then told to run through an obstacle course and are introduced to Corporal Dunn, and then shoot pop-up enemies. Then after that get an alert that something goes wrong and proceed to go there. We then wake up with Shepard pulling us up and has us shoot enemies across a river, then hop in a vehicle and see a big building get blown up. We then go further through this town until we get ambushed and reach a school until we eventually reach General Shepard and tells us about a special plan. Shepard's plan is to send Private Allen into Russia undercover under terrorist Vladimir Makarov and joins Task Force 141. We then play as Rhodes with Captain McTavish on a mountain climbing up, and once we reach the top take out enemies until we meet up with McTavish again to steal an ACS module. We then get ambushed but then set off an explosion and end the mission with riding on snowmobiles.
Now we can't talk about Modern Warfare 2 without mentioning no Russian.
Remember, no Russian.
No Russian is the most controversial mission of MW2 and one of the most controversial missions in video games as a whole. It has you play as Private Allen undercover as a Russian operative next to Makarov and has you kill civilians at a Moscow airport until you eventually take out Russian police, and ends with Makarov finding out and killing Allen on the spot. You can skip this mission entirely. It then switches back to Task Force 141, talking about the events of the previous mission, and has us track down Makarov's weapons supplier in Rio de Janeiro. We are then introduced to a new character named Ghost and starts out with our car driver getting shot and has Rhodes, Soap, and Ghost take down his supplier's buddy and has us go through several buildings until we take his supplier down. We are then informed that the Russians have invaded the US. You play as Private James Ramirez with Sergeant Foley in a town in Virginia, going through houses and completing several objectives, going back and forth between buildings, taking out Russian soldiers. It then switches back to Task Force 141, still in Rio, taking out soldiers until they get to the landing zone, which Rhodes then falls and runs through various buildings and reaches the helicopter just in time, with Nikolai helping us. It then switches back to the US Army Rangers with General Shepard giving us new orders and going through more various buildings, taking out Russian soldiers until we reach a house locating a VIP to which has been killed. It then switches back to Task Force 141 with Shepard talking about a prisoner named 627 and has us infiltrate a heavily guarded oil rig, with us first entering via submarine-like vehicles and reaching rooms, rescuing hostages, and escape via helicopter. It then has Task Force 141 infiltrate a gulag to rescue prisoner 627, with us taking out Russian soldiers until we reach this wall.
I've detected 2 heat signatures. One of them should be prisoner 627.
Place? This belongs to you, sir. Who's so?
Come on, we gotta get out of here! Move, move!
Bravo 6, be advised.
Go!
They started the bombardment early. Get the hell out of there now.
We then get out of there by hooking up to a helicopter. It then switches back to the US Rangers in a bunker and then realize we're in Washington DC, which has been turned into a complete war zone. We then go through several government buildings and help defend the Washington Monument, and then get on a helicopter which then gets shot down and has us defend the area until this light sees us. It then switches back to Task Force 141 with Captain Price and Soap talking to General Shepard about destroying a submarine, which Shepard then gets pissed and hangs up. Then has Price and Roach in the snow sneaking by Russian soldiers and taking them out until we link up as the rest of Task Force 141, which we then infiltrate a base with Captain Price releasing a missile from a submarine. It then switches back to the US Rangers with us repeating the end from the last Rangers mission, but switches to an astronaut in space and watches an EMP go off, and back to Ramirez as we can see Corporal Dunn freaking out and realizing all the electronics are dead, and meet a private telling us what to do and go through a big building and eventually reach a hotel and find the president's secret vault. It then has us go to the White House and retake it from the rest of the control, and once we do that, pop rescue flares at the end. It then switches back to Task Force 141 talking to General Shepard about being in two places at once, and has Ghost and Roach infiltrate one of Makarov's safe houses by going room to room inside and find a computer to start copying files while we get ambushed and other members of 141 get killed. And then evac, but...
Get up! We're almost there!
Roger, I got him lined up. Gold Eagle's on the ground. Microsniper's on thermal. Over.
Cover them! Move! Spread out! Go!
You have the DSM.
We've got it, sir!
Good. That's one less loose end.
No!
Area sanitized. All targets destroyed. Solid copy. No movement detected. 2-6 going into holding pattern.
Girls! Come in! This is Price! We're under attack by Shepard's men in the boneyard! Tom! Hold the left flank! Do not trust Shepard! I say again, do not trust Shepard! Tom! Get down! Roach! Ghost! Come in, Ghost! You copy? Does anyone copy?
They're dead, Soap. Shepard's cleaning house. I'm working my way back to you. Shepard betrayed us. Have to trust someone to be betrayed. I never did. Nikolai, come in. Do you have our location?
Da, inbound Price. But I am not the only one. You got Shepard's men on one side, Makarov's on the other.
We'll have to take them all out then.
Or let them take each other out. Either way, I'll see you on the other side, my friend.
So, Shepard's trying to wipe out us and Makarov at the same time. Head to running point Bravo to the west. Trust no one.
We then play as Soap in an airfield with Makarov and Shepard's men killing each other and reach a jeep taking out soldiers with Captain Price and steer the jeep into Nikolai's plane.
We got one good UMP. They've got 1,000. We don't even know if Makarov's intel's any good. Price? Price?
The healthy human mind doesn't wake up in the morning thinking this is its last day on Earth. But I think that's a luxury, not a curse. To know you're close to the end is a kind of freedom. Good time to take inventory. Outgunned, outnumbered, out of our minds on a suicide mission. But the sand and rocks here, stained with thousands of years of warfare, they will remember us for this. Because out of all our vast array of nightmares, this is the one we choose for ourselves. We go forward like a breath exhaled from the earth, with vigor in our hearts and one goal in sight. We will kill him.
I'll wait for you at the exfil point. 3 hours.
Don't bother. This was a one-way flight, mate.
Then good luck, my friend. Slava Boga.
We then go to Afghanistan with Price and Soap and take out American soldiers by roping down and go through various caves and take out a small base and enemies and reach another cave.
This is for the record. History is written by the victor. History is filled with liars. If he lives and we die, his truth becomes written and ours is lost. Shepard will be a hero, because all you need to change the world is one good lie and a river of blood. He's about to complete the greatest trick a liar ever played on history. His truth will be the truth, but only if he lives and we die.
We then get on a boat chasing Shepard and his men, then take out a huge helicopter and then fall into the water. We then wake up and find Shepard, which he then stabs Soap. But then...
5 years ago, I lost 30,000 men in the blink of an eye. And the world just fucking watched. Tomorrow, there will be no shortage of volunteers, no shortage of patriots. I know you understand.
thought I told you this was a one-way trip.
Looks like it still is. They'll be looking for us, you know. Nikolai, we gotta get Soap out of here. Duh. I know a place.
The credits then roll, and then we get to play the Evening with Infinity Ward mission, which has you go to a museum with characters throughout the game and weapons to play around with. There's two sides, but you can have one side come after you.
And that is Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2's campaign. Time to talk about everything else.
There's a new mode called Spec Ops, which has you complete various objectives on certain maps and difficulties. It also has multiplayer, which is identical to COD 4's multiplayer, with slight adjustments and improvements, but we really can't play it anymore. Gameplay wise, it's identical to Call of Duty 4's, just a little more polished and improved. It also has enemy intel return, which unlocks achievements. Graphically, it looks and runs quite well. It's using the IW 4.0 engine created by Infinity Ward and runs at 60 FPS on consoles, with the Xbox 360 being the most stable, with PS3 having more framing issues, and the PC version looking the best and having keyboard and mouse support.
And that is Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, one of the best games in the series overall, but for the record, don't let the one side of the museum mission come after you.